History comes to life today in Bethesda, and that's where archaeologists are investigating new findings that could shed new light on a former enslaved man who inspired the novel Uncle Tom's Cabin. We're also learning more about the book's author, Harriet Beecher Stowe, and the impact the story had on our nation. Holly joins us again live with more now. Holly, what a great morning.
This is a great morning. You're going to be fascinated by the things we're about to show you. You know, there are few novels out there that really help define us as a country, and Uncle Tom's Cabin is one of those. And that's why the new finds here at Josiah Henson's Special Park are so significant, because they help us to learn even more of the details about our story. And that's in part what brought Katherine Kane all the way down from Connecticut. She is the executive director of the Harriet Beecher Stowe Center. Thank you so much. And this is your first time here.
I'm so excited to be here. I've wanted to visit Josiah Henson's space, and here I am. So thanks for setting this up so I could do this.
And for someone that knows so much about the book, what does it really mean for you to be standing here in this space?
It gives me goosebumps, because this is the space that connects Harriet Beecher Stowe and her best-selling novel, Uncle Tom's Cabin, that changed American attitudes before the Civil War, and it connects Josiah Henson, who was one of her sources for writing about what slavery was really like, and he lived here on this agricultural plantation.
So this kind of makes the pages of this book right here come to life. So
That's
tell me
exactly
what you're
right.
holding.
I'm holding the 2 volumes of an 1852 edition of Uncle Tom's Cabin. By the time these volumes got printed, 60,000 earlier volumes had already been printed. The printing presses couldn't keep up with this.
Everybody wanted to get a copy of this book.
Everybody wanted.
And that was back then. Today, we were talking, people don't necessarily understand that maybe internationally this book is even bigger than what we appreciate it for here in America.
That's totally true. I was speaking in Denmark this spring, and I asked the group of 250 people, how many of you have read Uncle Tom's Cabin? And they all raised their hands.
Really?
And that wouldn't happen in the States.
No,
but
sadly,
this is the book that helped change our country.
So you have that book, and then perhaps even more important is the one that you have next to it.
And this is a facsimile edition of the key to Uncle Tom's Cabin.
And this was the answer that Harriet had to her critics.
Exactly. Everybody said, or some people said, you didn't get it right in your book about slavery in 1852. And she said, yes, I did, and here's the proof. So she collected all of the stories, including Josiah Henson's story, which is right here in her chapter about Uncle Tom himself. And Josiah Henson is cited, his book about his experiences.
And this is really the book that says Josiah Henson was her inspiration.
Yes.
I mean, his name is listed, so there's no question.
One of her inspirations.
One of her inspirations, right. I should say. She used many sources. That is true. I want to show some of this stuff, too, because you said this is really rare.
Well, you know, print material is one thing. There are multiple copies. Manuscript material, these are letters and signatures. So here is Josiah Henson's signature from the Stowe Center's collection. And one of the reasons, and here's another one, Josiah Henson. And this is a man who was raised in slavery and bondage and never learned to read and write. So you can see he doesn't have a fancy signature. But if you look at this letter here, another 19th century letter, which is narrated by him, it's from him and signed by him, but somebody else had to write it.
So think of that moment. He's telling his story, which is amazing. So he's telling his story, but the person that's listening realizes that it needs to be written down and uses their ability to do that to help tell the story.
That's right, and that's how his narrative is written. He narrates it, and it's published in 1849. He has to narrate it. So we, and the introduction says, we used his words and some of his sentence structure. So the poor man is subject to other people's interpretation of the story he's trying to tell.
Amazing.
And it's just another example of the evils of slavery, as Stowe would have described it.
Another reason, before we go, that's so wonderful you being here is that you started out as an archaeologist yourself.
I did indeed. So I get goosebumps at archaeology sites. I can't help it. This is all about the details of history, the little things that give us the information to tell the stories about these human beings, these amazing people who built a world before us that we've inherited.
Thank you so much for taking the time and the effort to come down. MyFoxDC.com is our website. We have a link to the Harriet Beecher Stowe Center. If you're in Connecticut, maybe you should stop by there. Coming up in our next hour, Time Team America, the PBS show, did a special on the site. They're working on one, I should say. We're going to talk about that and some kids in our area that got to be involved in their field schools. Back to you in the studio.
Holly, thank you so much.